Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host with the biggest nose, Jay-Z Courtside, coming at y'all today on Wednesday, January 21st. I hope everyone's having a phenomenal start to their day. As always, we had some good NBA basketball last night, and if you missed it, don't worry, I got you. All right, guys, so today's episode, we're going to be going over three of my favorite games from last night. Later in the week, we're going to be doing a special episode where we look back at all the casinos, MGM, FanDuel, all the win odds, the win totals that they had all 30 NBA teams at, and we're going to look back and see where I had those teams at to see how many I nailed, how many I got wrong, and we're going to see on like the pace of all of these teams to see how accurate these win totals were. And I know some teams are shocking, like the Cavaliers, like the Phoenix Suns, like the Detroit Pistons. So we're going to be going over that this Friday. That's probably going to be near a 2-hour episode. So you do not want to miss that. We're going to be discussing all of it, okay? But like I said, we're going to be breaking down these three games today, and then we're going to be ending today's episode with a new segment to my podcast. You probably have seen this podcast if you guys watch a couple podcasters out there. You've probably seen this segment is what I meant. And yeah, be sure to stick around because we got some interesting storylines to talk about at the end of this episode. Guys, podcast listeners, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review. It really helps more than y'all could possibly understand. You guys on Spotify and Apple, be sure to do your part. YouTube chat, be sure to drop a like, subscribe. TikTok, spam that like button, drop a follow. And Twitch chat, thank you all for being here. Like I said, all you guys got to do is sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy the show. Let's get right into today's episode, starting with last night's game between two Texas teams, the Houston Rockets, coming back to defeat the San Antonio Spurs. Now, this was a comeback. This was a, how do you say, ugly basketball game. This thing was ugly. The San Antonio Spurs were up by 16 in the third quarter, and somehow, despite all Rockets fans in my Discord talking about we can't score enough, we're not going to be able to come back when we're down double digits, it's over, we lost. And then I was watching and I was thinking, hold on now, hold on. The Spurs are shooting a lot of threes. Then I looked at the box score and they had shot 42 threes and the game wasn't even done yet. They ended up shooting 50 attempts from the three-point line. That's 2 times the amount the Rockets attempted. They only hit 14 at 50. It's not like they were lights out. And part of the reason being is because of Julian Champagnie deciding to go for a career high 8 threes in a game. He was 8 for 16 from 3. And I swear on everything, he missed his last 6 threes that he attempted. Not just missed. I'm talking, he got blocked by Alperen Sengun at one point in the corner. And then he got blocked by Reed Sheppard in the corner. Reed Sheppard is blocking 3-point shots on the perimeter. So Julian Champagnie going for 27 points and having 8 threes is insane. Yes, he got hot and then he got cold and then he got hot again. Yeah, I meant a game high for threes from Julian Champagnie. He had 8 threes. And again, he led the Spurs in points with 27 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. And then the entire San Antonio Spurs team just decided to fall in love with the three and just continue to throw it. I thought I was watching the Suns. I thought I was watching the Boston Celtics, the way that this team was just relying on threes all game. Massive shout out to Sleep for dropping a follow on the Twitch stream. I appreciate you a lot. Honestly, I gotta go like just player by player and look at everything that I saw last night. Stephon Castle's been in a cold streak, y'all. He has been in a cold streak. I dare you to go look at his 3-point percentage, not just for the season. I'm talking over his last 20 games. His season 3-point percentage is 28%, and he's shooting 45% from the field. But I kid you not, over his last 15 games, I think he's shooting like 15% from 3. It has not been good for Stephon Castle. That sophomore slump is real, and he's definitely stuck on that right now. It happens. I'm not worried about Stephon Castle. I will say, in the limited minutes that we saw Dylan Harper, he played 23 minutes, and I loved what I saw. Again, 0 for 3 from deep. Dylan Harper, as a rookie, cannot shoot yet. His bread and butter is truly getting into the hoop. His season, he's shooting 24% from the 3. But for the last 15 games, he's shooting 9%. That's not good. In fact, that's very bad. You should probably stop taking these threes. You should probably stop right now because as a rookie, that will sink your mental. So at this point, keep doing what works. Keep doing what works and take it to the hoop because you're very crafty and acrobatic down there. Now, I got to talk about Wemby and Stephon Castle. They both shot a combined 25% from the field. You're not going to win a basketball game doing that. You're not going to win. You're just not. Okay? Victor Wembanyama was 0 for 7 from 3 and 5 for 21 from the field in just 30 minutes. Stephon Castle, 13 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists. Good all-around game, but when you look at the percentages, that's when you truly get worried. Okay? He was 5 for 19 from the field, 2 for 8 from the 3. Again, De'Aaron Fox had a miserable game as well. 14 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 6 for 15. You guys know when you guys watch on Peacock, right? Peacock or NBC. And all due respect, I love Ian Eagle. I love his son. I forgot his first name. It's something Eagle. But he was commentating this game, right? And their voices are great. I love the way they commentate basketball. But one thing that never gets old, you guys know that meme of that Gucci backpack hanging by a thread on that guy's back, on his back? That Gucci backpack that's just like hanging by a thread. Like it's barely hanging on. That's how I feel every time these national commentators say, former clutch player of the year, De'Aaron Fox. Every time in the fourth quarter. I'm sorry. Hang that idea up. Hang it up. I hate hearing that on national television. They've said it so many times this year. They have said it so many times this year. The let it go meme. Exactly. Like, give that up. He won clutch player of the year like 5 years ago. 5 years ago, 2021. So my whole ordeal, my whole point is that's like somebody on the commentary saying former first grade Jay-Z. Like, yeah, I was in first grade before. That happened. That was a thing. De'Aaron Fox is not clutch anymore. He's not. With all due respect, he's a good player, but he's not clutch. He's definitely not that clutch player of the year during that Light That Beam era. His three-point percentage is at an all-time low, 34%. His field goal percentage is at an all-time low. He's not playing as well as we know he's capable of. But what's most important is the development of this team, okay? And last night was definitely a load of growing pains. You guys saw it firsthand. I could talk about Harrison Barnes and his cold streak all I want, but I'm not going to. It's Harrison Barnes, right? What I will talk about is Victor Wembanyama, right? And last night he looked uncomfortable. He looked uncomfortable. So we've already discussed how you defend Victor Wembanyama, right? First of all, pray, okay? Second of all, force him to shoot. Force him to shoot. Durant said it post-game. He said it. He said, listen, Victor Wembanyama, when he gets into the paint, he's unguardable. You can't stop him. That's where he wants to go. So he's still a young player, and he's not comfortable taking those contested jump shots yet. And last night really proved that. He's not comfortable taking those shots. And ladies and gentlemen, I gotta be honest with everybody. In the playoffs, Wemby is going to fall in love with those mid-range shots and the three-point shots because teams are going to just form a wall against the San Antonio Spurs team. As a Pistons fan, I can tell you, did you guys see how Victor Wembanyama was playing defense last night? I see that every night against teams. And I'm going to give you Rockets fans something to pay attention to, and Spurs fans. Mainly my Rockets fans. You guys know Amen Thompson, great player, miserable shooter, right? I want you to pay attention because I know there's going to be more people watching the Rockets versus the Pistons. JB Bickerstaff and the Pistons have figured out how to use Asar Thompson on the court and not be a detriment to the team in the half-court offense. Let me explain. Victor Wembanyama was guarding Amen Thompson. And by guarding, I mean they were playing man-to-man, but Victor Wembanyama was hanging out in the paint while Amen Thompson was at the top of the key at the perimeter. So he's not guarding Amen. He's still guarding the paint. And that's going to be the downfall of the Rockets if they can't figure out how to beat that. What the Pistons do, the reason why I'm bringing up the Pistons is because the Thompson twins are, neither of them can shoot. The difference, though, is Cade Cunningham and Reed Shepherd. Okay? You can't expect this out of Reed Shepherd. You can't expect this out of Cade Cunningham. So what they do is Cade Cunningham has the ball on the top of the key. And when, for example, Neemias Queta of the Boston Celtics was guarding Asar Thompson because they know Asar Thompson's not going to be a threat. They want Neemias Queta to stay into the paint. So what they do is Cade Cunningham is at the top of the key, calls a screen from Asar Thompson. Asar Thompson comes up and sets the screen. Okay, what happens there? By Asar Thompson setting that screen, Cade's open. And Neemias Queta is forced to come up because Asar Thompson was in the screen action. When you do that, Asar Thompson's free. He can drive to the hoop. He's free. Or Cade's going to have an open mid-range shot. There's one or the other. Now, what the Rockets never do is use that same component with Reed Sheppard and Amen Thompson. And it's understandable. It's understandable. That's fine. Reed Sheppard's not the playmaker. But what I did see, and it happened one time like 2 weeks ago, is Kevin Durant did that with Amen Thompson. They do not do it consistently. I watched that entire first half. I watched the entire second half of that night of last night's game, and they did it one time. They need to do that and take advantage of it, because when their half-court offense is miserable, that's going to be the only way when Amen Thompson's on the court to break those woes. Take the ball out of Amen's hands and let him work off ball. Don't put him in the dunker spot. Don't plant him in the dunker spot. You need to work from the perimeter, okay? So my point being is everyone wants to say Kevin Durant locked Wemby up. Kevin Durant locked Wemby up. He's the recipe. Unicorn versus alien. That's not entirely what it was. All it was whoever is guarding Wemby, force him to the baseline. Force him to the baseline. And he was taking those uncomfortable deep twos. He was taking those uncomfortable fadeaways. Wemby's great. Victor Wembanyama is great. He does not have that part of his game yet. And that's more than okay. That is more than okay. He will develop it. Just like Kevin Durant said, he's young, he's developing, he's going to learn how to beat those plays. The only thing that I need to point out is that when people are telling me that the Spurs are championship contenders this year, they're lying to themselves, because this team needs to go through those woes to get to where they need to be. And right now, they're not exactly where they need to be. And that will come with time. Okay? That will come with time. I love seeing some of these comments in the TikTok right now. They're saying, holy shit, actual game analysis. This guy knows ball. This guy's asking if we do this daily. Yes, we do this Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. If you want to not miss a single episode, tune into the Twitch stream. That's Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch. The link is in my bio. We're a basketball community over here, and we're all talking over here. It's a much better community than over there on the TikTok. So I hope to see you guys come through to the Twitch. And I like this comment from Moose in the Twitch stream as well. He said, Katie's not the playmaker Cade is, but he is an efficient shooter. So that action will work no matter what. I need you guys to hear me one more time. Kevin Durant is a much better shooter than Cade Cunningham. We all know that. And he's a much bigger threat from mid-range as well. It's automatic, right? So if you bring Amen Thompson into this pick and roll action when the center is guarding Amen Thompson, you're going to have either an open shot on the three for Durant or an open midi, right? So even if he doesn't be the playmaker and pass it to Amen on the cut, it's fine. He's going to have an open shot. Now, another thing I want to mention is the San Antonio Spurs. I really question on whether or not they're going to make a marginal move, or they're not going to make a big move. I can guarantee you that. They're not going to make a big move. Listen, the Spurs are still at the top of the conference, near the top of the conference. They still are, okay? But in a series against a team like the Rockets, I said it's going to be difficult. But the main reason I said it was going to be difficult was because of Steven Adams. He's not there anymore. And it showed last night. I don't know how the hell the Rockets won this game. I mean, I know how, but they were getting destroyed on the offensive glass. 14 offensive rebounds for the San Antonio Spurs. And like, it wasn't even Wemby or Luke Cornett doing it. It was the guards. It was Keldon Johnson. It was Dylan Harper. It was the guards. They were just running there. So my biggest worry now for the Spurs is their shooting. We all know that. And experience, of course. But for the Houston Rockets without Steven Adams, I'm getting worried. They're giving up rebounds. And part of the reason being is because they were jacking up so many threes. So, of course, those 50-50 balls typically goes to the offensive team. And there's another thing. I don't see Wemby going 5 for 21, 0 for 7 from 3. I think this game is sort of going to wake Wemby up as far as like, wow, did I really shoot 7 threes last night? Castle's going to look, did I really take 8 threes last night? And this is the whole point that I'm trying to make here, ladies and gentlemen. Bad shooting nights happen. But in the regular season, it's truly practice for the postseason because it's different basketball at that point in time. It's way more aggression. It's way more of people picking up from 90 feet up, right? So if you don't have the ball handlers like the Rockets don't, that's where I worry, okay? They don't have the playmakers. They don't have the shooters. So when you look at the Spurs, they don't have experience. They don't have shooters. When you look at the Houston Rockets, they don't have shooters. They don't have a playmaker. They don't have ball handling. So both these teams have their obvious flaws, and I'm going to be very curious seeing them in a playoff matchup. That would be fun. I think experience would probably win out. I think having the star power between Kevin Durant and Alperen Şengün will overpower the Spurs in their first playoff appearance. I'm pretty confident in that, but it won't be easy. It'll probably go 6. It could even go 7. I'm not exaggerating. It can really be a flip, easily as flipping a coin. The biggest issue with the Spurs last night is something that they never do, and that's take 53s in a game. That's way too much. That's way especially for a team that can't shoot. You're taking 53s. 50? Like I said, they saw Champagnie knocking him down, and then they just kept going for it. I'm sorry, this ain't the Boston Celtics. This ain't the Phoenix Suns. You don't have the facilities to do that. And I want to give a special shout out to Reed Sheppard leading the way in scoring for the Houston Rockets. 21 points, 8 for 17 from the field. That doesn't tell the full story. Yes, it was technically inefficient, but the way that Reed Sheppard sort of just woke up in the fourth quarter, I got goosebumps just thinking about it. Reed Sheppard got a crazy block on Julian Champagnie in the corner. Reed Sheppard went and hit back-to-back threes from the same spot in the wing. Reed Sheppard drove to the hoop, did this acrobatic up and under. If Reed Sheppard can be a TJ McConnell, can be a Peyton Pritchard off the bench, and they get an actual primary point guard until Fred VanVleet comes back, this is a dangerous team, ladies and gentlemen. It also does need to be noted that the Spurs were on the second night of a back-to-back. So I'm obviously not going to over-exaggerate from just one game. They were on the second night of a back-to-back. That could be a reason why they were settling for so many threes. Short, all the jumpers were short. Regardless of all of that, the Rockets got their win. And even though it was on the second night of a back-to-back, they still did their thing. The Rockets did their thing. They closed the Spurs out. They came back and won. The fourth quarter really showed that the Spurs were tired, though. I will be honest. They looked extremely exhausted in that fourth quarter. I'd like to give a special shout out to Wealthy. Wealthy, thank you so much for leaving the TikTok stream and coming through to the Twitch stream. I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you for the follow on Twitch. It truly means a lot. Shout out to the Rockets. Shout out to the Spurs. The Rockets had a great game. I mean, all things considered, DFS sucked. He sucked all year pretty much. Tari Eason, he looks lost out there. Can I be honest? Tari Eason, this is his contract year. They didn't extend him. This is his contract year, and it's not looking good. I know he's been on and off. As far as injuries go, but it has not looked good, man. It has not looked good. I hope he can lock in. I hope he can get better because it's not looking great right now. And then, of course, the Rockets are going to be in trade talk. The Spurs are going to be in trade talk as well. I think the Rockets need another point guard. I think they need a playmaker. I know a lot of people are saying that they could really use Kobe White, but I don't know. I don't know if Kobe White is really going to be the answer. I think Ayo from the Bulls would probably help a lot more, but obviously he's going to be expensive. I like what I see out of the Rockets. I think this would be a really fun Western Conference matchup in the playoffs. I think they could verse each other in the first round. This should be fun. It definitely could be a very fun series. Now, I want to move on to our next game. And this game was a bit more interesting for different reasons. I watched this game almost in its entirety. I want to talk about the Phoenix Suns versus the Philadelphia 76ers. And I have a couple notes that I want to share. A couple. Some of you may not know this, but I've been talking about this all season long. At the rate that they are playing Tyrese Maxey, he's either going to get injured or he's going to absolutely suck ass in the playoffs. I said what I said. I'm sorry to my 76ers fans. I apologize. I mean it when I say that, though. This guy, Tyrese Maxey, is playing the most minutes per game since a man named Monte Ellis 16 years ago. Nobody has played more minutes per game through a season since Monte Ellis. That's a pull. In 15 or 16 years. He is getting ran to the ground, and that is not a recipe for success. You have these off games from Tyrese Maxey. He gets his 20 points, but at what cost? You're shooting 7 for 25 from the field and 2 for 8. So Philadelphia has to figure this out to not exhaust all of their options. But on nights that they don't have Paul George or Joel Embiid, I don't know what the other solution can be. And you know what? Something that I've been really wanting to say, and I've been holding my breath, is Philadelphia they were all on Tobias Harris. They all hated Tobias Harris for doing Tobias Harris things. But when Paul George is doing Tobias Harris things, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. When Tobias Harris was being Tobias Harris, it was a problem. But now when Paul George is being Tobias Harris, it's not. Make that make sense. Paul George is averaging 15 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 41% from the field and 37% from 3. Nobody is talking about him. Nobody is talking about him. They're moving the goalpost. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. And it doesn't matter that they're comparing Tobias to Jimmy Butler. That's what they had. And they have Paul George and they gave him that contract. And they hated Tobias Harris when they gave him that contract, but they don't hate Paul George for it either. Doesn't make any sense. So, I got to say this one more time for the people in the back. If Tyrese Maxey is going to continue playing the most minutes from any player since Monte Ellis in 2011, this team is not going to succeed, and I guarantee they will either get swept in the first round, or if they're against some mediocre team, then maybe it can go 6 or 7. Shit, I just said the thing. I'm happy to hear from my man Splash, who just left the TikTok stream and came through to the Twitch stream. He said no Sixers fan is happy with Paul George. My issue, Splash, is I don't see people talking negatively about Paul George. I don't see it. I saw it all. I saw it every day with Tobias, but I don't see it at all with Paul George. So again, I do have to say, with Joel Embiid, I think this team could do well. I think this team could even make it out of a first round. My only issue is what they're doing to Tyrese Maxey. And last night, I'll be honest, Tyrese Maxey was pissing me the hell off. There's no way VJ Edgecombe, as hot as he was, got cooled off like that. There's no reason for that. He had 25.7 rebounds. He was 10 for 21 from the field. He wasn't shooting it great from deep. But when VJ Edgecombe's having a game like that, you give him the ball. Tyrese, I'm sorry, but you don't have to be the hero every single time, man. You don't have to be the hero every single time. You're tired. You're tired. Let VJ cook. He's there. Let him cook. Again, I worry about Tyrese Maxey's usage. I really worry about it. We'll see what happens. Hopefully they can figure it out. That's not the main topic of discussion at this point, though. I want to talk about the Phoenix Suns. No pun intended in my lower third, the way I said Jalen Green returns as the Sun continue their hot streak. Jalen Green. Where do I begin with you? As a Pistons fan, I'm supposed to hate Jalen Green. But I don't. I love Jalen Green. I love him as a player. He seems cool as a person. Jalen Green came off the bench and played 20 minutes. That was his minutes restriction. You guys know me. I love hoops, and I love everything about basketball. I love everything about basketball. It's my favorite sport. It's my favorite hobby. I love basketball. I love everything about it. And the way that Jalen Green plays basketball turns me on, bro. Turns me on. I'm talking all the way on. This guy is not just sexy, but he's sexy on the basketball court. The way he moves is unbelievable. I love seeing how fluid, like there's no wasted movements with Jalen Green. And I know what Rockets fans are probably going to come out and say, I know what they're probably going to say. He's not consistent. He's not consistent. He's not consistent. He's not consistent. He's the most consistent, inconsistent player in the NBA. And it's so, like, I hate when people judge young players like that, because with all due respect, I heard that about Cade Cunningham for his first 4 years in the NBA. I heard that. I heard it all. And now Cade Cunningham's an MVP candidate. Cade Cunningham is leading his team in the Eastern Conference. And I don't see why Jalen Green can't. I'll just say this much. Watching the footage, watching the clips, watching all of the behind, I implore you guys to go watch the Phoenix Suns Twitter account, because the stuff I'm seeing from them post, seeing Devin Booker laugh and smile on the bench, seeing Devin Booker have fun on the basketball court again, seeing I'm sick of this disrespect, by the way. I hate him when we're up against him, but I love him when we're not. Dillon Brooks needs to be talked about more. And I think Dillon Brooks, regardless of how his NBA career shapes out, I think 20 to 30 years from now, we're going to be reminiscing about players like Dillon Brooks and how much he mattered to the NBA of our era. He has not just changed the Phoenix Suns culture, but he has changed the Houston Rockets culture. He changed the Memphis Grizzlies culture. This guy is a culture setter, a trend setter. Every team he goes to, he impacts. They all turn into dogs. All of them. They all turn into hungry dogs. Seeing Devin Booker fight for loose balls, seeing Jalen Green come out with energy the way he did, seeing them hype up Jalen Green bucket after bucket, possession after possession. It's a sight to see. And I got to say this because a lot of y'all don't know this, okay? Iguodala, Jordan Goodwin, and I believe Ryan Dunn all cost $7 million combined this year. Combined, they cost $7 million. And you are getting some of the most out of those three players in particular. They are giving their all every night. Not just that. The Suns are paying Bradley Beal $19 million this year. And they're getting all of this production from $7 million in total. I'll tell you this much, man. Mike Ishbia, I will never clown him as an owner because he does whatever he can to make sure that his team is not just competitive, but have a positive outlook in the future. The fact that they're paying Devin Booker a lot is fine. It's fine. Because when you are adding pieces like this, it's a no wonder that the Phoenix Suns right now are 6th in power rankings. It's no wonder. They're dogs. They give their all. They try their hardest every possession. Now, I will say, it does disgust me how many threes this team takes. I don't love that. But it's the way that they get their threes for the majority of these games it's beautiful. Against the Pistons, against the Knicks, I remember those games in particular. They hover around the three-point line, and their one goal is just to pull up for three. That doesn't work. That's ugly basketball. I don't enjoy that. But what I do like is the drive and kick, and they were doing that all last night. Dillon Brooks, drive to the hoop, kick when they collapse. Devin Booker, drive to the hoop, kick when they collapse. Jalen Green, drive, step back, pull up three if it's open. I love it. Grayson Allen, what he's doing, beautiful, man. I honestly, I claimed the Phoenix Suns as my team in the Western Conference this year, and I'm so happy I did because the way that they're playing, I just got to remind everybody, their over-under line was 34.5. They were expected to win 34 games this year. 34. They're at 27. And we're only halfway into the season. That's a beauty. That's a beauty. These are the stories that I live for in the NBA. What I will say though is their head coach, I think his name is Jordan Ott. He is not coach of the year. Joe Mazzulla, he is not coach of the year. I think we can all agree. Put my biases to the side. I think we can all agree on who the coach of the year is. And if he doesn't win coach of the year, I don't know what to say or do anymore other than say Detroit versus everybody because he needs to be coach of the year. There's no way You can take a team that was picked to be 6th in the Eastern Conference and they don't throttle up to potentially 60+ win team. That is just unheard of. That's unheard of. When you have the Magic, the Cavs, the Knicks, Magic, Cavs, Knicks, the Celtics, and the who am I forgetting? Was it the Hawks? Yeah, the Hawks. You had those 5 teams all over the Pistons, and yet the Pistons are crushing all of those teams and staying at the top of the conference. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. You know who Coach of the Year is. It is. Flat out, plain and simple. Okay, I do want to say, before we move on to our final game that we're covering from last night, I do want to say, TikTok, if you guys are enjoying the stream, especially my boy Chick-fil B in the TikTok stream, I'd love for you guys, Raiders Forever, your father, all you guys to come through to the Twitch stream. That's where my real community hangs out. That's where the real ball knowers are at. If you guys really want to get involved in the conversation, talk with me, talk to the rest of my community, join my Discord server, be sure to swing on into the Twitch stream. That's JZ Uncut on Twitch. Or just click my profile picture right here and click the link in my bio. Come through to the Twitch stream. We'd love to have you. If you guys watch 3 Twitch streams in a row, I will gift you a sub, a $5 sub out of my own pocket so that you no longer get ads. All right, let's move on to my final game that I want to cover from last night. And I know one fan in particular is going to be happy that I'm finally talking about them because I haven't really given them the time of day. The Toronto Raptors beating the Golden State Warriors. Now, I will say the Golden State Warriors were on the second night of a back-to-back. And they, yeah, I mean, that's just point blank period. They are having their 7-game homestand right now. But the Toronto Raptors smacked the Warriors by 18 points. And I got to talk about it a little bit. This is the second game that's happened already this year, I think, where Emmanuel quickly drops 40 points. What I will say is I'm personally, you guys know my opinion on Emmanuel Quickly. I am personally not a fan of Quickly. And I think the main reason is because of his contract. You remove that contract and give him a middle of the level, like a mid-level contract. I think I am a bigger fan of Emmanuel Quickly, but I can't be a fan based off of that contract. Grady Dick got the start last night. Obviously, Pirtle's still out. RJ Barrett's still out, but they still did their thing. One thing that concerns me is as good as, I mean, listen, the Warriors didn't play any defense last night. I'll be honest. They did not play any defense. They weren't even trying on defense, like at all. If you guys watch this game, they were not trying on defense at all. At all. The one thing that stood out most to me last night, rewatching this game, is the Toronto Raptors had 42 assists. 42 assists. Now, I got to point this out, y'all. The Pistons, who just beat the Celtics had 13 assists total in a game. They had 13 points total in a game. And then a night later, the Raptors go on and get 42 assists in a game. That's unreal. That's unreal. I'm going to talk about the Raptors, but I have to talk about this storyline first, and we're going to be talking about them a little bit later as well. This is actually a very fun stat that if you guys, none of you guys have heard. None of you, not a single one of you guys in this stream right now has heard about the statistic. Here we go. For the first time in NBA history, since Wilt Chamberlain, a player who received 18 DNPs, did not plays. For the first game back, they scored 20 points in a game. Jonathan Kuminga is the first player since Wilt Chamberlain who did that 3 times in his career, who got 18 DNPs and then in their first game back dropped 20 points. Jonathan Kuminga was a solid 7 for 10 off the bench, and he damn near scored a point per minute. He finished with 20 points in 21 minutes, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, and 7 for 10 from the field. This is crazy. This is crazy. And we're going to be talking about that in a bit. I just had to point that out. Obviously, we all know the Warriors were without Jimmy Butler. And something I want to point out is this exact game shows you how important Jimmy Butler was to the Warriors. This exact game. Because Curry had one of those Curry nights where he gets 16 points, and nobody talks about it really. He had 16 points, minus 25 on the field. Or sorry, minus 25 on the floor, and 6 for 16 from the field. I do have to say this. I have to say it for everybody, okay? Curry has these games once a week. Literally once a week, Curry has these games where he scores 5 to 15 points. And in those games, before Jimmy Butler, they're getting buried. With Jimmy Butler, especially of the last 16 games, they've still been winning those games because Jimmy Butler's going for 25 to 30. So my point being, without Jimmy Butler, the Warriors are barely a play-in team. Barely. And I said this yesterday. It really begs the question on whether or not Curry, he's not going to do it in the middle of the season. Do y'all think Curry will go to the GMs and the owners and say, all right, I want to be traded? I don't think that's going to happen. I think Curry wants to be he wants to be one of the final players that play for one franchise in their NBA. So I personally don't think that he's going to go in and say, I want to be traded. And they're definitely not going to trade Curry without his permission. He's not going to request. He's not going to demand. And they're not going to trade him without his permission, of course. He's going to play his entire career with the Golden State Warriors. And he's going to have the same ending that Kobe, same ending that Dirk had. That's it. And yeah, you can't say Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan literally went to the second round of the playoffs in his last season and lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder with Durant and Westbrook in their peaks. I want to read this comment from Moose in the Twitch stream. He said, yesterday, Jay-Z said Spo was is the most overrated coach with multiple, but I think an argument can be made for Kerr. I don't think Kerr could do for the Heat what Spo did for Jimmy, but Spo could definitely do that with prime Steph. That's a great point, and I agree with you, Moose. I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. I like this comment from Liam. He said the Golden State Warrior front office needs to be honest about what's best for themselves and Curry, just to go with him and say here's the thing. Here's the issue, and here's what I need to talk about real quick before I give credit to my to the Raptors. Okay, the argument with the Warriors is, I've told you guys multiple times, they've set their team for every contract to expire the same time Curry's expires. And with that being said, they're not going to trade future assets for this team. I have to be honest with everybody when I say this. The owners made their billions of dollars. They don't care. They've made their billions of dollars on this cornerstone of Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry. They're not going to put more. They're not going to risk after Curry during the last stretch of Curry. They're not going to. They're going to look this roster up and down. What more does this team need? A lot. This team needs a lot. I'm sorry, you're not going to win with Moses Moody, Pods, and Quinton Post in your starting lineup. You're not going to win with Will Richard, DeAnthony Melton, Buddy. Like, it's not like Guy Santos is getting a lot of minutes on this sort of team. Even with Jimmy Butler, they weren't going to win it all. They would have been competitive, sure. They probably could have won a playoff series. If they were against the Lakers, they could win that. It would be close. But they're not beating any other team. They're not. So my final point on the Warriors is the owners are not going to dump their, the after Curry projects into what's remaining with Curry now. They have set their books to all expire when Curry retires. When Curry's expires. Now, I have seen this rumor floating around that the Warriors are considering trading Jimmy Butler's contract to, that's right, the Dallas Mavericks. For who, you might ask? Anthony Davis. Yes, Anthony Day-to-Day Davis. The reason being it works for both teams is the Warriors get old. They stay old. They want to remain old, okay? And they think that Anthony Davis could be the final component. And then Dallas, they know his value's in the gutter. So with Dallas, they would just end up buying Jimmy Butler's contract out. Jimmy Butler has one more year. Anthony Davis has 2 more years after this. So it sort of makes sense why Dallas would do something like that. Now, I want to talk about the Raptors a little bit. That was a good win. That was a really good win. I can't give them too much credit. I sort of laughed at my Raptors fan in my Twitch stream because he really wants me to talk about the Raptors, but I can't give them that much credit. If you guys watch this game, please just do yourself a favor. If you want to see the lowest effort of defense in the modern NBA, you have to go watch this game back. There is no defense being played. I kid you not. Like, this was the worst game of defense I've ever seen this season. It was pathetic. It was utterly pathetic. So, of course, Brandon Ingram going for 22. Scotty Barnes, an efficient 12 for 18, going for 26. Emmanuel Quickly dropping 40. Even on the bench, Mamu Kelishvili is dropping 14 points like that. No, there was no effort on the defensive end for the Golden State Warriors where, like, I wasn't blown away. Like, yeah, these are professional basketball players, ladies and gentlemen. If you leave them open, they're going to score. If you leave me open, I'm not dropping 40, but I can get you a smooth 10. If you leave me open in the NBA, that's what's going to happen. If I'm taking warm-up jump shots in an NBA basketball game, yeah, I guarantee you I'll get you a smooth double-digit game. And Quickly's a hooper, man. He's just not really that much of a playmaker. He's not a true point guard. He still dropped 10 assists last night, but he had a double-double of 40 points and 10 assists. I'm going to read this comment from my homie Pran in the Twitch stream. I just don't understand why they committed to trying to build a young core around Curry if they never had the real intention of growing them. Like, Kerr doesn't play them and they don't commit to a certain style of play. I fully agree with you, my man. I fully agree with you. And this is my biggest issue. This is my biggest issue. With the Golden State Warriors, they swung and missed with James Wiseman. They swung and missed on a lot of young players. And when you look at this roster up and down, it really is telling that they could have had that, you know, their back ordeal, right? And it never came. They won in 2022, but that was it. When you don't have the young pieces around that team, you're not going to win. They swung on Moses Moody. They swung on Jonathan Kuminga. They don't even want to attempt with them. They don't even want to try with them. And that's the unfortunate part about this team. Now, I love this comment from Kai saying Raptors are top 5 in fast break, defense and offense. Now, you guys know my opinion on fast break defense and offense. Defense is fine, but fast break offense does not translate into the playoffs. I saw this with the Pistons last year. You see this with every team. You can look every single team who leads the NBA in most fast break points. They typically get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. You can go look, prove me wrong, but every team that leads the regular season in fast break points, they never go far. In fact, 98% of the time they get eliminated in the first round. That happened with my Pistons last year. Those fast break buckets do not come easily in the playoffs. It's all about half court offense. So if your team is good at half court offense, if your team is good at guarding the half court offense, that's where you will be prolific at. Now, what I will mention is that their defense is good. I'm not sure what their defensive rating is. I'm going to go ahead and check real quick what their defensive rating is just so I can be 100%. The Toronto Raptors defensive rating is barely top 10. They're 0.1 being in the top 10. 0.1. And they're right ahead of the Dallas Mavericks by 0.1. They are 9th. Now, when you look at teams like the Pistons, they are closer to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the number 1 for defensive rating than they are to 3rd in the San Antonio Spurs, which is very impressive. With the Toronto Raptors, their biggest struggle is their half-court offense, and that's why I'm not a believer in the Toronto Raptors. I've said this 100 times. I've said this maybe 10,000 times. The Toronto Raptors half-court offense is miserable. It's one of the worst that you can watch. That's why they're so good in the fast break, because they can run. Now, if you were to play this team in the playoffs and they have their lackluster half-court offense without a true point guard at the helm, I'm not a believer. I'm not a believer whatsoever, okay? At all. There's somebody in the TikTok saying Spurs Pistons finals. This is why I don't read the TikTok chat. Yo, guys, if you guys are enjoying the stream, TikTok, be sure to swing right on into the Twitch stream. We'd love to have y'all, man. Come through to the Twitch stream. We'd love to have y'all. It's a much better community over here, y'all. Come chat it up with us. And of course, the Raptors still need a lot. They need a competent center. They need a healthy center because Jakob Poeltl is good. Jakob Poeltl is good, but he's not healthy. They need a good center. They need a good center because right now they're playing small ball. And I told y'all yesterday, small ball is dying. Small ball is dead. Here's something that you need to understand as well. Having I love saying his name, Mamu Kelishvili, having him off the bench and running that full-time small ball lineup is not going to work. You need a center. You need a center. You need a playmaker. The Raptors are good. The Raptors are a good, fun team. I love watching them. I don't understand why they gave Jakob Poeltl that contract to begin with. I don't know what he had on them, but it was too big of a contract. I love watching the Raptors. They're always my league pass team that I watch. I love watching them. They play at a reasonable time. I like their brand of basketball. Mainly, I love defense, and they do play a bit of defense. As much as I love Mamukelashvili, he is getting beat the hell up, and I'm sure you guys are noticing. He's falling on the floor. He's when you play small ball, you are getting extra mileage and extra stress on all of your muscles. And you can't do that full time anymore because could you imagine that? Sorry, I had to fix a mod's mistake in the Twitch stream. Could you imagine seeing Mamukelashvili up against Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart? That's not going to work. You need bigs now. You need bigs now in today's NBA. You need them. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just make sure of fixing one thing in my Twitch stream. I don't know why this is happening. So let me continue. Ammo, can you get your cat off your keyboard, please? All right, I accidentally unpinned that one. I was just expecting it again. So here's something that I want to say. Final of the Toronto Raptors. My apologies for all my podcast listeners and everybody else who was confused about what was happening. Some stuff was happening on the Twitch stream. We do this live. Some issues happen. Okay, so my apologies. Now, what I'd like to say, final for the Toronto Raptors, if they can figure out their half-court offense, I think this team could truly make some noise in the playoffs. But as it sits, they're just a fun team for me right now. And you know what's unfortunate? Brandon Ingram's going to get the all-star spot from the Toronto Raptors. It's not going to be Scotty. Go look at all the numbers. Go look at all the numbers and all the up in the polls for the all-star game. Signs are pointing that it's going to be Brandon Ingram that's going to get voted in instead of Scotty Barnes, and I think that's just unfair. Brandon Ingram is their best scorer, yes, but Scotty Barnes is their best all-around player, and he's their star, and I think Scotty deserves it over Brandon Ingram. Yeah, I will say that's somewhat of a robbery. Now, I'd like to move on to our final segment. TikTok, be sure, user, Mason, everybody else, if you guys are enjoying that TikTok, be sure to swing on into the Twitch stream. We'd love to have y'all over here. It's a much better viewing experience over here than it is over there, okay? So come through, guys. Love to have y'all. Now, let's move on with a new segment that we're going to be doing around here. It's called Is This News? Is This News? I got it from my favorite podcast, No Dunks. So if you guys want to understand how this works, is basically I'm going to share you a headline that released recently, and I'm going to ask you guys on whether or not it's news. Do you think that this is news? Okay. So the first one. Is this news? Mike Dunleavy, the GM of the Golden State Warriors, came out and said in response to Jonathan Kuminga demanding a trade, he came out and said, he came out and said, when you make a demand, there needs to be demand. That is a shot and a half at a young player. And this confirms my ideology of people like to say that Steve Kerr wouldn't intentionally ruin a young player's career. This proves to me that they have intentionally ruined Jonathan Kuminga's young career. I believe this is news. I believe this is news because what this just confirmed is that there is a personal vendetta on Jonathan Kuminga. He's not playing because there's something going on personally with that team, not professionally. And that's my biggest issue. I think that this is news. I genuinely believe that this is news because this confirms everything that I thought already. There is something going on internally. And the reason that Jonathan Kuminga is not playing is not because of his play. It's because of Steve Kerr. It's because of Mike Dunleavy. I think, if you guys don't know, I play for a rec league. An adult rec, my city league, right? And there's some guys that straight up don't play. They come to the games and they don't play. They play 1 week and then they don't play a single second in the next game. And part of the reason is because we have a shitty captain. And some of those guys just stop showing up. They stop coming because it's like, we're not being paid to be there. In fact, we paid to be there and you're just not going to play me. And I understand why people are saying that on the team and they just stop showing up. I'm playing 37 out of the 40 minutes, but then some guys can't just get a few of my minutes. So now you're telling me that this guy's being paid to not play. I think that's bullshit. I think it's unfair. And I think judging by Kuminga's play, he's a scorer, man. He's a scorer. He will get you buckets. What is this personal vendetta that you guys have against him? When you make a demand, there needs to be demand. That is crazy to say about a player. I would like to just ask as well. Jonathan Kuminga is 23 years old. 23. Cade Cunningham didn't get his leap until he was 24. From here on out, I will never judge a player before they turn 24. Because of Cade, I'm not saying Jonathan Kuminga is going to be Cade Cunningham, but the fact that you're not allowing him to play basketball, you've killed his entire trade value. And I love this comment from Solo in the Twitch stream. He said, at this point, if I'm any team, I'm trading for Kuminga. That guy's going to have a massive chip on his shoulder, and he's going to remember this. Absolutely, he's going to remember this. I think it's truly unfair what they're doing to Kuminga. He might not be the most efficient player, but he's shooting 50% from the field. Or I guess he's shooting 45% from the field this year, but that's off no rhythm. He doesn't know if he's playing. I think any team that needs a bucket getter could use Kuminga. And it's not that much of a risk, right? It's a team option in a second year. There's literally no risk. If he's not good for you this year, that's fine. Release him after the next year. They only gave him a 2-year contract, and the second year is a team option. So his contract essentially ends this coming summer, unless the team picks up that second year contract. So I think it's genuinely BS. It's genuinely BS. They are self-sabotaging their own team because they're trying to move him. I don't know what they're trying to do at this point. Free him. Free Jonathan Kuminga. I will eat my words if he sucks. I'm not saying he's a 25 point per game scorer, but I genuinely think that this guy could be an elite 6-man of the year. Genuinely believe that. All right, my next topic, guys, is this news? Is this news? Reported by The Ringer, professional blog post team for the NBA, they said the Cavs are the most desperate team heading into the deadline. Do y'all think that this is news? Me personally, I don't think that this is news. I understand that the Cavs are desperate. I understand that, but it's the Cleveland Cavaliers, y'all. They've had years to make moves. They should have traded somebody last year. They should have traded them after they got smoked in the playoffs. I don't think that this is news. I genuinely don't. I think they are the most disappointing team, which then I guess you could say it coincides with desperate, but they're not. I don't think they're going to do much by the deadline. Do y'all genuinely believe they're going to move Jared Allen? Do y'all genuinely believe they're going to move Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, or Darius Garland? Because I don't. They are in the second apron right now, ladies and gents. They're in the second apron. You know where they're also in? The play-in. Whenever you're in the same conversation as the Chicago Bulls, just know you failed as a franchise. My apologies to my one Bulls fan, Moose. But when you're in the same conversation as the Chicago Bulls, just know that you have messed up as a franchise. I've talked about this plenty of times. Moving from Darius Garland what's the word? Is it dehabilitate? No, that's not a word. It will neutralize Evan Mobley. You think Evan Mobley sucks now? He will suck even more if you trade Darius Garland. He will suck even more if you trade Darius Garland because Donovan Mitchell, with all due respect, doesn't pass the ball. Being in the second apron while also simultaneously being in the play-in is truly embarrassing. I want to read this comment from Pran. He said, kind of surprised that Kenny Atkinson hasn't been able to figure out how to get this roster clicking. They have the talent. Makes me think this roster is built off of this is the issue. This is the main issue at hand. We're blaming the coach again. Because when in doubt, blame the coach. The Knicks are doing it right now. The Cavs are doing it right now. The Magic are doing it right now. At some point, you have to look in the mirror and wonder, damn, is it me? Maybe if Donovan Mitchell decided to get Evan Mobley more involved into the offense, maybe they'd be looking better. But that's honestly up to Evan Mobley on whether or not he wants to be the aggressor. And he's not. Evan Mobley's giving you that smooth 18 and 8 every single night. In my honest opinion, if you're trying to blow it up or reconstruct your team, you do so without Donovan Mitchell. Sell high. My biggest issue here is that the Cavaliers are looking around the Eastern Conference right now, and they're saying, why can't we still go to the finals? We can still go to the finals. We can still go there. And it's not that far off. It's not that far off in thinking so. The Cavaliers match up very well against the Detroit Pistons. They clog the paint. They know that the Pistons can't shoot, so unless the Pistons go out and get another shooter, which they have to just do a marginal trade and get yourself another shooter. They genuinely believe that they can knock the Pistons out. They genuinely believe they can knock the Knicks out. They genuinely believe they can make it out of the Eastern Conference. So they're not going to be desperate. They're 24-20. They're not going to be desperate. I assure you. I would be so surprised if they make a move. I will be so surprised if they make a move. So I don't think that's news. I don't think it means anything. I don't think they're going to be desperate at the deadline. I genuinely don't. Now, for my final take on whether or not is this news, I need your guys' help here. And mind you, I'm gonna clarify what I mean. Is this news? The blow it up teams are being quiet heading into the deadline, according to Bleacher Report and The Ringer and The Athletic. The teams that we all expected to be huge sellers by the deadline haven't made any moves. In fact, they haven't even been picking up the phone. The Sacramento Kings, the Dallas Mavericks, and the New Orleans Pelicans. All of these teams in which we were told they're going to be blowing it up and having a fire sale have not really made a move or any sign of making a move. Let's start from the top. The Sacramento Kings, I mean, where do I start? DeMar DeRozan, Keon Ellis, Zach LaVine, Malik Monk, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis, Dennis Schroeder, Russell Westbrook, all blow-up candidates. The Dallas Mavericks, you keep Max Christie, I don't care. But Anthony Davis, Dante Exum, Daniel Gafford, Jaden Hardy, Kyrie Irving, Derek Lively, Najee Marshall, Caleb Martin, keep Ryan Nembhard, Dwight Powell, D'Angelo Russell, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington. The only guys you should be keeping on this team is Cooper Flagg and Ryan Nembhard, in my honest opinion. Derek Lively, I don't know if he's going to be able to recover with all these injuries that he's having. And let's move on to the New Orleans Pelicans. Jose Alvarado, Sadiq Bey, Jordan Hawkins, Herb Jones, Kayvon Looney, Missy for some people, Trey Murphy, DeJounte Murray, Peavy, Jordan Poole, and Zion Williamson. All of these players are movable. All of these players that I named, except a couple, have value. I'll tell you this right now. The Pistons are probably blowing the GM of the Mavs phone up about Klay Thompson. They must be blowing their phone up right now. Klay Thompson is low-key having such an underrated season. This dude, Klay Thompson, right now, for this season, on how many attempts per game? 8 3-pointers attempted per game, is shooting 38% from deep. And that is with starting the season off horribly. Because in the last 10 games for Klay Thompson, he's averaging 46% from three. Klay Thompson over his last 10 games is averaging 46% from three. So their phone should be blowing up right now. In fact, if the Pistons aren't calling them, I'm going to be very surprised. So my whole point being is, why have these teams not made a move yet? Are they waiting for February? Are they waiting for it to get closer? I'm going to read this message from my super fan Liam of the Pelicans. He said, the Pels should have been obvious. We don't have a first, so we have no incentive to blow it up until the offseason, really. So the constant chatter of trades doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You make those trades for the picks for next year. It's quite obvious. It's obvious. If you were to trade Trey Murphy, you would get a couple first rounders. If you trade any of those, if you trade Herb Jones, you can get a first rounder. So my whole point being is that these three teams that were told that they should blow it up in the Sacramento Kings, the Dallas Mavericks, and New Orleans Pelicans have not made any noise. I don't know if there's some story behind any of those three teams, but I'm very curious. I'm wondering when these teams are going to supposedly blow it up. And with that, y'all, today's episode is going to come to a close. I said all I needed to say. We got some fun games tonight. So be sure to tune into those. Podcast listeners, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review. TikTok, be sure to swing right on into the Twitch, because I am ending the TikTok stream right now, but we are staying live on Twitch for quite some time, okay? So TikTok, YouTube, now is your chance to leave those streams and come through to the Twitch, y'all. It's 100% free. Just click my name and then click the link in my bio, or just look up Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch. Guys, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, follow, whatever platform you're on right now. Be sure to swing on into the Twitch. We do all of these live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss them, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I got nothing left to say. I got nothing left to say except for thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And as always, guys, I'll see y'all in tomorrow's episode. Thank you for watching / listening. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. Have a blessed day, everybody.